Hello everyone, this is Ross from Retro Dream Beam. I'm an eBay seller full-time. I've been doing this with my fiance and Netta for a couple years now. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'm about to go into like my kind of crazy idea. This is like my philosophy of how I run my eBay. So the first thing, I just want to set a ground rule. This is not advice for other people. This is just like how I've been thinking about and going through in my mind what eBay is to me. All right. I'm gonna have 6 different points here. So the first one is going to be price, something I do kind of differently than other people. Let's go ahead and put that up here. Price, P-R-I-C-E. So when I'm going through price right over here, when I'm grabbing all these items, these like niche ones, I like to try to grab niche stuff. I'm not really caring too much about like comps. I do check occasionally, but that's not really what I'm thinking about. I do take a look at actives, but usually it'll be like 5 or less people or 10 or less people, and then half of them will be like foreign sellers. And I know some people don't like foreign sellers. So the thing that I think about when I'm pricing my items is I try to get into the customer's head. I'm not pricing the item for myself. I'll give some examples later on. I'm just thinking about what customer will buy this, how much money do they have to spend, will they want this type of item, and how do I get them to buy it? I don't really focus too heavily about price. A lot of people are like super focused on getting like exact prices, exact penny, exact dollar amounts. That's not a big deal for me. We have offers on, so I give a little leeway. So let me give you an example about price right over here. So like, for example, when I am shopping for something, well, first off, we sell things that are wants, they're not needs. So I have to think about like when someone wants them. There's a couple like rare board game things that I personally want. I'll like watch list them, but I'm looking for like just the right price. I'm not looking for the cheapest. I don't necessarily want the cheapest. I've bought in cheapest before, and then that ends up getting like pieces missing and stuff like that. So I want the customer to be confident with the item. I'm not like the cheapest price type of seller. I have offers on. Sometimes when we send offers, it does end up being the cheapest price. People do like combo orders and stuff like that. So specifically for price, I know like a lot of people will price things for how they shop. And when I'm in my eBay shop and I'm thinking about something, I price things on how I think someone else will shop. So let's just say like I'll run into like a vintage Dungeons and Dragons like a book, or even part of a book, or part of like a starter set or something. In my mind, I'm thinking about the customer and that person, probably someone who was in D&D in the 80s, they probably have more disposable income at this point in time. So they're not necessarily going to be looking for just the cheapest book or the cheapest part at that point. They're probably, if they're getting like a part for a set, they are probably going to be completing it, right? They don't really care. They don't want to spend like $100, $200 on like a full new set. They want to just complete their set, right? It might be nostalgic. They might use it. A lot of these people have a lot of huge collections. And like I said, they probably have extra disposable income. For me, for example, I wouldn't be able to go out and buy a bunch of vintage D&D stuff. Like I can't afford it, but I'm not pricing my items for me. I'm pricing my items for the customers. And this is kind of like the thought process that goes through my head for each of my items. Like, who's going to buy this? How much money do they have? How much are they going to want this item? So that's how I think about it. Let me give you another example of why I don't price the cheapest, at least for my items. Think about how many times people go into like a retail store. I don't want to pick on any particular store, and they just completely pass up on a clearance aisle. There's probably good stuff in there in like the clearance aisle, but they end up passing it up because in their mind they think cheap equals bad. So like I do try to tend to not fully go cheap with my items, because I do think it kind of sets in someone's mind that this particular thing is just the cheap thing that they don't want. And I do think that works for at least me, or at least for the way I think about pricing items. I like to buy bulk, so I'm not necessarily like focused on looking at every individual item and making sure I get to min-max every item. I'm just trying to get like a bunch of good stuff where I hope like a couple things will be good enough and everything else will also be good and gravy on top. So that's kind of really my thought process on price. I don't really check, like I'll glance at actives. That's usually what I use. I'll just like glance to see like the range of stuff. Like, cause like in my mind, there's there's certain price points, categories just for stuff. So you probably have like what free to $5. That's probably like gets a good portion of people. Then you probably have like, you know, $6 to like 10ish. That's like another group of items. Then you have like 10 to 20. And I think you get like 21 to 35 is like another category. And I think once you get past like 35, you're starting to reach like a different type of customer, or they have a little bit more money, or it's an item they really, really want. So yeah, anything literally like I think like at like $36 is the same way. I'm thinking about something for like $100. It's just a different type of customer that I'm reaching out to. I'm thinking when I'm saying price here, I'm just trying to think about the customer and what they're willing to pay, or what they want to pay, or what they want from the item, what they're going to use it for. That's how I'm always trying to like price something. Sometimes I'll just go ahead and like test different prices. I'll be like, oh, I think this item's worth 50. I'll just throw it for 70 and see what happens. Like I said, we have offers on. And then sometimes I'll be like, oh, maybe this item is worth a little bit more, but let me see if I can do a lower price and see what happens. So I like to test out different prices for the different niche categories that I list every day. All right. Next up is my idea on, let me write it right here, inventory. Oh, this is an interesting one. This is an interesting one because I think about inventory differently. So I don't really believe in, what do they call it? The death pile, the dead pile. That's not really something that I think about. I think about all the items I have. I'm in no rush to list everything. I would like to, that would be great, but like time's a factor. So I'm seeing all this stuff as potential items that can actually go up in value because I'm selling a lot of niche items or collectibles. Let's just say like a trading card game, or like a vintage board game, or a vintage board game piece, or an RPG. These are things that typically increase in price over time. So when stuff's just sitting there for me, I don't see that as like a dead pile. I just don't like the framing of it. I just see literally everything as inventory. I know that's like different than how people see it, but yeah, I'm not too stressed. Like, yeah, space is definitely a factor, like my like storage space and stuff like that. But I see it all as like good stuff. I see it as in like almost like mini little item investments, like little stocks on the side on the ground floor or in their bin. They're just like kind of collecting a little bit of value because there's a lot of trends these days, especially with like all over the place, from pop culture all the way to like nerdy stuff and board games, where like let's say for example they are working, I think Annette told me that they are working on a new, I think like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer reboot of a TV series. So now all the stuff, all the inventory that I have from Buffy stuff could go up. There was also a time where the Fallout TV show came out and we had a bunch of Fallout stuff listed. I had it listed slightly higher. They were like really cool collectibles. TV show comes out, Fallout, it was a good one. People liked it a lot, but most of our Fallout stuff sold for a good amount of money. So yeah, I don't consider stuff as dead stock. Also, the other way that I look about inventory is when people have listings up, they don't like that. Like when something's like older, they basically think it's like, you know, not a good item, or it didn't sell within like a certain amount of days. Therefore, people will like delist stuff, or they just stop like caring about it. That's not me. We like to refresh our listings. I don't see my items as old items. It's just not like a concept that resonates in my head. I see all of my inventory, all the stuff I listed as important. I spent the time to list it. I'm not going to think of it as like, just because it didn't sell quick, all of a sudden like the item's not good. No, all the stuff that I list is like I believe in. So I know that's just like something that I think about differently. You know, sometimes I feel like I think about eBay too much. It's you kind of gotta like get invested into thinking about how you're going to go about eBay. This is just like the way I view it. All right, next up is going to be another interesting like way I think about stuff. So I'm going to call this commit. I hope I'm spelling this right. One second. COMMIT, commit. There might be two T's, but I'm not a speller. I'm an eBay reseller. All right, so commit is kind of just like this concept I have in my head where I committed to eBay at some point, right? So you have to kind of believe in yourself. So when people used to ask, when I was first started full time, they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" I always try to sound like fancy. I used to be like, "Oh, well, I logistically, put in a lot of kinetic energy to put stuff from one place to another." And people be like, "Oh, cool, 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 cool. Like that sounds good, good." Now, straight up, I finally got the confidence where I just tell people that I'm an eBay reseller. I sell on eBay, and then also people I think kind of give better reactions to when I was trying to sound all fancy. And then once I started like not being what's the word, like shy about it or embarrassed about it, I started becoming like proud about it. I started committing to like actually what I did believe in my head, and I just started talking about it. I felt like it helped me just actually progress with eBay. It helped me like list better. Just like this is the way that my mind now thinks about eBay. I commit to eBay and I think of it as like I'm investing in myself, right? Every item that's sitting there could potentially be money that can come in. It's just like like I was talking about earlier, the inventory that just sits there. It's all potential for me. I don't see it as junk. I know other people don't see it as junk. I just like to commit to the bits, right? The other thing about committing to it is I take it very seriously, where like the only way I would stop doing eBay, imagine I'm like the type of person. So let's do a little visual here. Imagine I'm the person, I'm backed in the corner. I like to play a lot of video games and board games, and I like to push, like I try hard mode and stuff like that, push it myself to my limits. Imagine if I'm in a corner, I'm not thinking about how I'm backed in the corner. I'm thinking, can I go left? Can I get out left? Can I get out right? Can I get out above? Can I get out underneath? And imagine more walls are closing in on me. I'm still thinking like, ooh, can I get up top, get up bottom? The only time I would probably stop committing is if actually all of the walls were closing in on me. So that's how I treat it. I am living on the razor's edge. I am putting everything into it. Like some days can be scary with eBay, because like it's all of our money coming in for bills and stuff like that. But I will only stop doing eBay. I'll only stop committing if there's literally no other choice. That's just how I think about it. That's just the way my brain goes about eBay these days. All right, next up right here, point number 4. Something that's just part of my core values. It doesn't even necessarily have to be about eBay. Is kind. I like to be kind to everyone. In addition to like committing to it and telling people like I'm an eBay seller, I also always ask people names. I'm always polite to them, just kind of basic please and thank yous. I try to do my best in eBay messages. I try to do the best out and about in person. And I think this has really gone a long way for me. And I don't do this to fake it. It's just like how I was raised, and I do believe it's like a very important, almost like subtle thing. There's a lot of people these days that they give me shipping boxes. They'll just like give me items. They'll recommend me to other people because I know their names. I know their family member. A lot of these people that I buy stuff from, I know more about their family than themselves, if that makes sense. Because I know that's like my family is important to me. I know other people's family is important to them. So I like to ask about them, like, hey, how's your daughter? What are they doing? What are you doing? What are you doing for fun? I know a lot of people typically just ask like, oh, what do you do for work? But like people want to kind of be recognized for stuff beyond that. Me myself as well. We like to do a lot of stuff. I love board games, like obsessively. I love video games. Annetta loves video games. She loves reading. She loves stories. There's other stuff than just like what you do. And like I said, people will recommend me to other people. People will help me out. People will give me shipping boxes, just like all sorts of stuff. This is kind of just like almost like a life philosophy rather than my eBay philosophy, but I incorporate it in eBay because I do believe it's like super important to just spread out the kindness. I kind of just have that like thought process that helps with everything. It helps me feel good and committed to what I'm doing. It helps me feel nice that I'm helping other people, and then that it ends up coming back tenfold to me as well. So it's very I've been very humbled recently about eBay because there's been a lot of people that have been helping me with stuff, and it feels good because, like I said earlier, when I first started like committing to being an eBay reseller, people can't just kind of like believe you, right? They're going to be very, very skeptical for a long time until they realize that you're proud of yourself, you committed to it, you are actually doing it. I know there's a lot of people who doubted me. I knew it was going to happen. You know, a lot of people are going to doubt you, but like I believed in myself, Aneta believed in it. I had a couple people from the beginning that did believe in it, but yeah, there's a lot of doubters. But now at this point, a lot of those doubters have flipped over, right? They're now like the ones that are constantly helping because they see that I actually cared about this. This is something that I am taking serious. So along with the kindness and being confident with it, it's kind of just helped me think about eBay. All right, the next part is kind of interesting for me right here. Let me put it, I don't know if this is one word or two, Endgame. All right, leave a little dash there. So Endgame right here, and when I'm doing something, I want to kind of think about like what's the goal? What's the fleshed out worldview? What's my fleshed out worldview of eBay? People would think like, okay, money. Yes, money is the kind of like, I don't think actually money is not my end game goal. It definitely helps. It pays the bills. I can't do it without it. So it's kind of just like a necessity. It's not a want, right? You don't want money. I'm doing this full time. I need it. So my end game is very simple for this. All right. So we have, I'm very bad artist. So we have this right here. So this is, let's do a triangle dress. We got that right there. We have, this is great, guys. This is why I'm an eBay seller and not an artist. Okay. That's 4 legs. And then we have a smaller one right over here. I'm going to get to a point. This is seriously how I think about it. So, and you're going to notice something's missing. So this is Aneta right now. I guess she's a stick figure. I'm engaged to a stick figure. And then this is our chubbier cat, and this is our smaller cat. This is actually what I'm thinking about. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. This is actually what I think about when I'm doing eBay. I am like committing to this. I'm being kind to everyone, but the end game goal is to actually feed Aneta, feed the kitties, feed myself. But I'm not even on here. I didn't write myself. I eat a bunch of rice some days just because like we can't afford fancy food, going out to eat and all that stuff. So like in my head, everything I'm doing is actually just for, like I said, family, right? Being kind to other people. Other people care about stuff. I care about Aneta. I care about the cats. That's kind of just like my whole eBay worldview is to make sure at the end of the day, to make sure that like they're healthy and that I can pay for their food. Like no joke, is like this is full time for us. So like we get all of our money, and that is how we feed ourselves. I know it sounds like dramatic, but that is actually the true case. So you gotta have some kind of end game goal, and mine's not money. It's to make sure that they're healthy, they're fed. All right, the last thing kind of lower to the ground, not as intense as the other ones, but we have, let's see this. Okay, if it's working, recycle. All right. So another thing to me in general is just, I like the earth, I like the environment, I like to just like reuse stuff. So recycling, and kind of, it's really nice that eBay kind of fits that creatively in my mind. There's so much stuff that like people would throw out that I end up taking in. We actually sell it to someone, and we get a feedback of someone saying like, thank you so much for listing this. I've been looking for this for years. So those are always, it's kind of like a smaller part to all of this, but I really like that kind of helps with the idea of like not wasting stuff. We like reuse like different shipping boxes. You reuse items. We sell a lot of used stuff. Like we'll sell new stuff if we find it, but it's really cool to like just think about the history of these items. Like I really like, it's something that Aneta got me interested in. She loves the history and the uniqueness and vintage and antiqueness of stuff. And then I'll be sitting there, I'll be listing something, I'll be like, oh wow, there's like a paper receipt in this board game box. Oh wow, this person was from like this state and they played this game, and there's some like wear in the game, and they like loved it. You know, they love that item. So I see it as like such a cool, just a cool thing that I'm doing here on eBay, right? A lot of hands have potentially touched the item. I like when I'm sitting there and listing, I'm not bored. I'm just like thinking about different parts and stuff, right? I'm thinking about all my inventory. I'm just like, it's just a fascination of mine, right? So that's just like how I'm sitting there and thinking about stuff, and this also being like fascinated about the item is I'm getting into the customer's head about like what price would they pay, what did someone pay for this particular like board game bit or piece, or this like vintage like ephemera piece of paper, the catalog. When I go through like those fashion magazine catalogs, I think about like the video game magazines that I used to read and stuff, and then like how my dad used to bring them home, and just brings good memories. So a lot of good recycling of items just brings a lot of good memories for people. And these are things that I feel like people use. They do use them. They do look at them. They display them. They consume them. It's a lot of cool stuff. So I definitely like that I get to incorporate my love for the earth and nature, love animals and stuff like that. So I do like to recycle. So we're almost done here. So what this is my personal, look at this. See if this makes sense. PICKER. My personal philosophy, my picker philosophy. I know this is kind of like just different than how people think through things and think about eBay. I know I'm very different in that way, but like the more I've committed to what we've been doing, I feel like the better it's gotten. It's a hard thing, like job to do, eBay reselling. It is a very grindy, very kind of boring and dull kind of thing you do from day to day. So I like to just go back to all of this in my head. And I just only recently like kind of like wrote down all my philosophy. All this stuff's been kind of like bouncing back and forth in my head this whole time as I've been doing eBay. So this is just something that I finally put down in words, and I thought people would appreciate like how I think about it. Like I said, this is not advice for other people. There are a lot of items to sell. A lot of this will be pointless for someone else's end game goals, their inventory, how they think about it, how they think about pricing. This could be good or bad for other people. I just wanted to let you guys inside my like crazy jumbled brain about eBay. And the more I've gotten like, I feel crazy about it, the more it makes sense, and more it makes sense for us and makes sense for me. That's just like, yeah, I've really committed at this point. I do feel pretty insane about eBay sometimes. All right, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.